Now to a Fox News alert. The storm is now in Minneapolis. It may not be a weather storm, but it's a storm that's been raging for weeks. We've seen destruction, division, and now, tragically, more loss of life.
Nobody in the White House, including President Trump, wants to see people getting hurt or killed in America's streets. This includes Renee Good, Alex Preddy, the brave men and women of federal law enforcement, and the many Americans who have been victimized at the hands of illegal alien criminals.
Protesters still out in the streets today, like in D.C., where Stop ICE terror demonstrations persisted. But also today, signs, clear skies may be on the horizon, because for the first time, our federal government and state governments are communicating. President Trump, writing on Truth Social in part, Governor Tim Walz called me with the request to work together with respect to Minnesota. It was a very good call, and we actually seem to be on a similar wavelength. I told Governor Walz that I would have Tom Homan call him and that we are looking for any and all criminals that they have in their possession. The governor very respectfully understood that, and I will be speaking to him in the near future. Governor Walz's office expressed a similar sentiment. He wrote, Governor Walz had a productive call with President Trump earlier today. The president agreed that he would talk to his Department of Homeland Security about ensuring Minnesota Bureau of Criminal Apprehensions is able to conduct an independent investigation, as would normally be the case. The president also agreed to look into reducing the number of federal agents in Minnesota and working with the state to coordinate on immigration enforcement regarding violent criminals. Now, as the president mentioned there, Border Czar Tom Homan is heading to Minnesota, picked up by Trump to take the lead on ICE operations and coordinate fraud investigations. All of this, of course, on the heels of the fatal shooting of 37-year-old Alex Preddy on Saturday. Like with the fatal shooting of Renee Good, there are videos, there are opinions, and there is no shortage of people sharing either. President Trump telling the Wall Street Journal, all of it is under review. Quote, we're looking, we're reviewing everything, and I will come out with a determination. I don't like any shooting. I don't like it. But I don't like it when somebody goes into a protest and he's got a very powerful, fully loaded gun with 2 magazines loaded up with bullets also. That doesn't play good either. At some point, we will leave. Now, included in that review of evidence, according to DHS today, is body cam footage from multiple angles. In the absence, though, of that, and in pursuit of the truth, it's important for us to review what we've seen. So here is that moment from Saturday.
And they keep pushing people, you know?
It's fast, it's obscured, it's over just about as soon as it begins. 2 things, though, we know for sure. Alex Preddy was holding a phone when he approached Border Patrol agents. He was also in possession of a firearm.
We do know that the suspect did bring a weapon, a loaded 9mm high-capacity handgun, to a riot. We do know that. As far as what happened in that intervening moment with the video that you just showed, that's going to come to light through the investigation. That's being investigated, and those facts and those questions will be answered soon enough.
Preddy's possession of a gun was lawful. That's a right given to him by the Second Amendment. Any narrative today that somehow you should not have a gun, even at a protest, in my mind, is a violation of the spirit of the Second Amendment. However, that doesn't make it wise to carry a gun to a protest, to what is amounting to a riot, or to have a gun on you when you decide unlawfully to interfere with law enforcement. And here's the moment that people are ignoring. It is the moment on your screen when Preddy inserts himself into the situation with law enforcement. That decision, that action is not covered by the Second Amendment. And so here emerges a problem for those so firmly planted on either side of this issue. Two things can be true at the same time. You can believe that Preddy raised the risk level by stepping in and interfering with law enforcement and was unwise to bring a gun to what it amounted to an organized insurgency. And you can also believe that Preddy didn't deserve to die. You can believe that these agents are put in an impossible situation. Rape whistles, car horns, people using cars to block their action, people ramming them. And you can still believe that deadly force needs scrutiny. You can have an emotional reaction even to people being deported, but also think that ICE and border laws are necessary for a country's sovereignty. And this should go noted as well. The illegal immigrant being sought in the midst of Preddy's shooting had a storied, violent rap sheet. Remember, this was a law enforcement action to take down a violent illegal immigrant whose rap sheet included domestic assault involving intentional bodily harm. That's what the protesters, the rioters, the insurgents that day, including Preddy, sought to interfere with, that rightful action of law enforcement. You see, this is not a one-size-fits-all situation. And according to Fox News' Bill Melugin, it's that realization that has frustration building within DHS over messaging from the top. He writes on X, some of these sources have described DHS response to the shooting as a case study in how not to do crisis PR. One said they are so fed up that they wish they could retire. Another said DHS is making the situation worse. And another added that DHS is wrong and we are losing this war. We are losing the base and the narrative. Now, whether or not the Trump administration or DHS is losing the base, I do think there is a problem with the normies, the mommy bloggers, the Instagrammers, the moderates. And it's a problem in part of the making of rhetoric coming out of DHS that calls every one of these incidences a domestic terrorist. We have to tell the truth in these situations because the truth shall set you free, because the truth will bend toward the arc of justice. And justice and truth reveal that these agitators are on the level of insurgency. That's what you're seeing when you see them storm a hotel in Minneapolis, where ICE is believed to be staying.
You're protecting murderers, you know that? There's blood on your head! You gotta reach the fucking murderer!
That is not legal observation. That is not a protest. That is not a riot. That is an insurgency. Two federal officers were surrounded, and one appeared to be bleeding before calling for backup.
Oh my God. Are you okay? I'm fine. Are you okay? I'm fine. Durka! Please, give me some room!
Other angles and longer cuts of that video show a brick being thrown at those officers. You see blood spilled all over the floor from his hand. Now, where are these agitators getting the idea to go after agents in this way? Where do they believe they can interfere with law enforcement actions, like in the case of Alex Preddy? Where do they believe they can use their car to block law enforcement, as is the case of Renee Good? Where do they believe that they can bang on a hotel glass door and attack ICE agents? The answer is kind of obvious. It's from their governor, who has likened their standoff to the Battle of Gettysburg.
When things looked really bleak, it was Minnesota's first that held that line for the nation on that July 3rd, 1863. And I think now we may be in that moment that the nation's looking to us to hold the line on democracy, to hold the line on decency, to hold the line on accountability.
This weekend, that boob made another ridiculous historical comparison.
We have got children in Minnesota hiding in their houses, afraid to go outside. Many of us grew up reading that story of Anne Frank. Somebody's going to write that children's story about Minnesota. And there's one person who can end this now.
Anne Frank. And yet fellow Democrats say Minnesota leaders aren't doing anything. of the sort when it comes to this ridiculous rhetoric.
It's just another lie. I mean, every single day, these guys are stone cold liars. The leaders in Minnesota are not and have never encouraged violence.
In the meantime, here is local law enforcement in Minnesota downplaying the importance of the law.
And I think the greater issue is, even if there is an investigation that ultimately proves that at the time of the shooting it was legally justified, I don't think that even matters at this point, because there is so much outrage and concern around what is happening in the city.
It wouldn't matter if the shooting was legally justified. I think it would matter to the agent. I also think it would matter to the family of Alex Preddy. And it should matter to all of us as well, as Saturday's chaos can be tracked back to a far-left network. This is not a spontaneous protest. This is now an organized insurgency, as revealed in encrypted signal messages, as rapid responders mobilize demonstrators to harass federal agents. Quote, backup needed inside this signal chat. At the Black Forest Inn parking lot in Nicollet Avenue, just south of 26th Street, multiple vehicles with many agents appear to be staging there. One confirmed ICE vehicle seen as a maroon Dodge Durango, but it has driven away northbound on Nicollet. Organized, funded, connected. Apparently it's okay, all right? It's okay, according to Democrats, for all of this to be taking place. In fact, it's esteemed, and it's something that Governor Tim Walz is saying he's proud of, an insurrection in Minnesota. You see, it's okay today to call for a full investigation into this shooting and acknowledge that rioters are obstructing law enforcement every day.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.